In 1973, two young children that were vacationing at Lake Common would encounter a strange being. A strange being that hasn't been seen since. This is the story of the Sandown Clown. This story takes place on the outskirts of Sandown, a seaside resort town and a civil parish on the southeast coast of the Isle of Wight, United Kingdom in 1973. Sandown has a rich history with evidence for a pre-Roman settlement in the area. During the Roman period, the area was used for salt production. Sandown would be used as a military site up until the mid-19th century. One of the first non-military buildings was Sandham Cottage. With the arrival of the railway in 1864, the town would grow in size and became a spot for tourists. The royal family of Germany would even rent several properties in the town in the summer of 1874. The town would remain a popular spot for people wanting to enjoy the town's beaches well into the 20th century. One such beach is the Sandown Beach, which is one of the Isle of Wight's finest and most recognized beaches, according to a tourist site. But for fans of strange and mysterious things, the town is known for something completely different. First reported by Bufora, which stands for the British UFO Research Association, the story of the Sandown Clown takes place in May 1943. Two children, a 7-year-old girl referred to as Faye and a boy of a similar age who remained unnamed, were vacationing with their families near Lake Common in Sandown. This event took place on a Tuesday afternoon around 4 o'clock. The children were playing outside when they suddenly heard a noise that sounded similar to an ambulance siren. Out of curiosity, they would follow the sound across the golf course. By the time the noise had stopped, the children were now in a swampy area just outside of the Sandown Airport. Still curious about this ambulance, the children kept going. Finally, they came across a wooden footbridge, and that's when they spotted something beneath the bridge. According to the children, they would see a blue-gloved hand appear from under the bridge before spotting a very strange-looking figure. As the children watched, this figure would fumble with a book, and at one point the figure even dropped the book in the water and then started splashing around trying to retrieve the book. After getting the book, this figure would then leave the bridge and enter a metallic hut with no windows that was situated close by. According to the children, the way this figure moved was very odd. Instead of walking like a human being would, the figure appeared to be hopping with its knees raised high. The two children then began moving away from the bridge. When they were roughly 50 yards away, they would once again spot the figure who had emerged from the metal hut. This time, the figure appeared to be carrying some kind of microphone. As they watched, the figure would fiddle with the microphone for a bit before the same wailing noise from before picked up again. The very noise that the children had believed to be from an ambulance. At this point, the young boy became frightened, so he turned and started to run away, with the girl, Faye, quickly following behind him. This seemed to alert the figure to their presence, which made the figure stop the noise from the microphone. Instead, the figure began speaking into the microphone. According to the children, they could hear the figure as clearly as if he was standing right next to them and speaking into their ears. Through the microphone, they heard the figure ask,
"Hello? Are you still there?"
This was apparently enough to make the children stop running. Perhaps due to the innocence of youth, they then decided that the figure sounded friendly enough when he spoke to them. So they stopped running, turned around, and walked back to the spot where the figure was still standing. Though they were careful as they were still somewhat apprehensive. As they approached him, they got a better look at him. He was tall, probably 7 feet tall. He didn't seem to have a neck. Instead, his head appeared to be wedged straight onto his shoulders. The outfit he wore was very odd as well. He had a yellow pointed hat with a black knob to the top and a wooden antenna on either side of the hat. He wore a green tunic with a red collar. And his face was odd too. He seemed to be wearing a mask with triangular markings for eyes, a brown square of a nose, white cheeks with round markings. His hair was red and he had yellow lips that didn't move when he spoke. As the children slowly approached him, the figure pulled up a notebook where he wrote in large letters, "Hello, and I am all colors Sam." And he then held it up so the children could see it. The children were soon close enough for them to speak, and that's when they noticed that the figure's mouth did not move when he spoke. Apparently called Sam, the figure then began asking the children questions, and they would ask him questions in return. They asked about his weird clothes, and Sam said that they were the only clothes that he owned. The children would then point to his white skin and odd appearance, and they asked him if he really was a man. Sam would reply that he wasn't. The children would then ask if he was a ghost. Sam would then reply, "Well, not really, but I am in an odd sort of way." Sam kept his answers very vague. He also claimed that he had no name despite introducing himself as Sam. He also drew the children a sketch of what another him would look like. Sam would then say that humans frightened him and that he was very afraid of being attacked. Sam would then invite the children into his metal hut, and the children accepted the invitation. When inside the hut, Sam removed his hat to reveal round white ears and hair that was brown, not red. According to the children, this hut contained 2 levels. The ground floor was, quote, wallpapered in blue-green and covered with a pattern of dials. There was also an electric heater and simple wooden furniture. Sam would also claim that he had a camp on the mainland, but he refused to reveal its location when the children asked. The children would then ask what Sam ate, and he told them that his diet consisted of berries that he collected during the late afternoon. He would then show the children how he ate the berries. He placed them in his ear before thrusting his head forward, which caused the berry to disappear. It would then reappear in one of his eyes. He then thrust his head forwards again, causing the berry to disappear from his eyes and reappear in his mouth, where he presumably swallowed it. The children would remain in the hut with Sam for around 30 minutes, asking him questions and just talking to him before they bid him farewell. The children then left the hut and retreated back across the golf course. On the way back, they would encounter a man who they immediately told that they had seen a ghost. This man did not believe them. From the interview in Bufora, the children did truly believe that they had encountered some kind of ghost, or someone dressed up in a particularly odd costume. In June, the girl referred to as Faye would tell her father of the encounter with Sam. He did not believe her at first, but after verifying the story with the young boy who was with her and all of the details that his daughter gave about the encounter, he began to doubt. One detail in particular struck him as very odd to fake or just a strange thing to make up. According to his daughter, Sam had 3 fingers and toes on each hand and foot. But the bigger reason why he began to take his daughter's story more seriously was that he had apparently had a very bizarre experience of his own. The girl's father, who is referred to as Mr. Y in the report, had his own strange experience when on the Isle of Wight. Reported in the same Bufora article as his daughter's experience, Mr. Y's experience took place 3 years earlier. On the 20th of October 1970, he headed out to visit a friend. When passing through the village of Brading, he turned right to St. Helens and suddenly spotted a large, multi-lit aircraft to his right. The craft appeared to be flying low over the marshlands along the River Yar. Stopping the car to get a better look at this weird craft, he would then see a wide ring of 7 or more lights. Each light was large and clearly defined and looked like a bright red cherry. And the lights kept changing colors from turquoise to red to white. But what struck him as odd was that there was no sound. This craft was completely silent. After observing the craft for a while, Mr. Y then got back in his car and continued down the road. But looking in his rearview mirror, he noticed that the craft appeared to be following him. First flying parallel to him, and then it moved in and flew behind his car. This craft would apparently follow him all the way to his destination. When he arrived at his friend's house, his friend went outside to meet him and would also see this strange craft, which to him seemed to be playing hide and seek between the treetops. Both of them would stay outside and observe the craft before they headed inside. By the time Mr. Y left his friend's house, the craft was gone. But for some time after this incident, he would apparently see strange red balls of light in the sky that seemed to be following him. That wasn't the only time that he saw something strange though. 2 years later, on March 1st, 1972, he was sitting on the cliffs looking out into the ocean when he suddenly spotted 2 lights. 2 yellow lights. These lights were stationary and seemed like they were observing him from below the surface of the water. After spotting them, he would observe these strange lights for a bit before he eventually left, returned to his car, and drove home. Mr. Y would not tell anyone of this strange experience, not until his daughter came to him with her own strange tale. I'm not gonna lie, as I was reading about this encounter with Sam, it honestly started feeling like a prelude to a missing persons case, or something much worse. 2 children encounter a strange man in a forest or swamp, and instead of running back home, they go towards him and even take him up on his offer to explore his hut, alone. It really felt like the kind of story that would end with, and they were never seen again. Honestly, it kind of set off some alarm bells for me as I was reading through this article. Fortunately though, that was not the case here. Sam, if he was real, was friendly enough. And assuming that there's some truth to this story and that Sam was indeed real, then what was he? There have been some theories regarding this. The first one is human. Was Sam human? Some odd person hanging out in the forest, or someone much more sinister? The children did not mention feeling threatened by Sam or that he was holding them captive in any way. But the sad reality is that many would-be kidnappers are not necessarily scary at first. But let's not assume evil intent. This could simply have been some random person who was living out in the swamp or the general area. Maybe they were someone who suffered from some kind of mental health problem, addiction, or something like that, which may explain some of Sam's strange mannerisms. And maybe this person was wearing a very odd outfit. And this outfit was made even odder by children, 7-year-old children, trying to explain what they had seen. Because of that, we can't really rule out the idea that the children may have either made the whole thing up or exaggerated a lot of things. Like, instead of walking, he was hopping, he was wearing a clown outfit. Children do have vivid imaginations, and it's possible that the story they told isn't the exact truth of what happened. That maybe they exaggerated some things or just made some things up. There's also another suggestion that say that this story may be a case of something called folie à deux, which is French for folly of two. This is a shared psychosis or shared delusional disorder. It is very rare, but sometimes symptoms of a delusional belief or hallucination can be transmitted from one individual to another. And sometimes this delusion or hallucination may be shared with a group of people. In many of the articles reporting this story, this theory is often mentioned, so I felt that I should at least mention it. The children themselves, the young girl Faye and the young boy, assumed that Sam was some kind of ghost. Faye would even tell her father that there were two workmen nearby repairing a post during the time that they were talking to Sam. But the men either didn't see or just didn't care about this strange figure. And when the children asked him if he was a ghost, Sam's answer was cryptic. The more common belief, and the one that the girl's father, also known as Mr. Y, seemed to believe, was that Sam was some kind of alien. And given that the story was first reported in a UFO journal, that is how Sam is most often described, a strange UFO encounter. There isn't much to go on in terms of this interpretation, as Sam has never been seen since, and we don't know if this craft that Mr. Y saw is connected to him in any way. However, there have been quite a few sightings of strange lights or crafts in the sky over the Isle of Wight. As recently as October 2021, a woman named Vivian Gibson would take a picture of 3 white flying saucer shapes hovering over the Solent, which is a strait between the Isle of Wight and mainland Britain. In 2008, people living in Hampshire would spot a low-flying, brightly lit craft. A craft that was reportedly completely silent and could disappear in a split second. Since at least the year 2000, many people have spotted strange lights in the sky. On August 6, 2000, there was a sighting of a black triangle with a red glow flying across the sky that was observed for 1.5 minutes in South Sea, Hampshire. From what I could find, most sightings involve bright lights seen in the sky, which actually makes Mr. Y's sighting more unique, because he spotted strange lights underwater, and he even claimed to be followed by some kind of craft, if you believe his account. What makes Sam, or the Sandown Clown, interesting, to me at least, is that the children's story seems to be the only source for this figure. And from the Bufora report, they, or at least the young girl referred to as Faye, was adamant that she was telling the truth. The report also points out that Mr. Y did go to the area where the children claimed to have seen the metal hut, but when he arrived, there was nothing there. But as the Bufora report writes, that's not exactly surprising, as these types of sightings rarely leave any trace behind. The Bufora article have no real conclusion to this story. In fact, it asked the same question as most people who have looked into this story. What was Sam? Ghost? Alien? Human? Or something else? As interesting as the story of Sam was, I actually found Mr. Y's story of the lights that he saw underwater more interesting, as that story corresponds with the many reports of strange lights seen over the Isle of Wight. And strange lights have always been a source of intrigue. I also found it very interesting that he claimed to be followed by some kind of craft that his friend had also witnessed, but apparently this craft had not been seen by anyone else, even though it was flying out in the open. How didn't anyone else see it? And why wasn't the friend asked about this strange craft? Or why wasn't the young boy asked about this Sam? I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think that Sam was a real figure or something that the children made up? And if you think that Sam was indeed a real figure, then what do you think he was? Do you believe Mr. Y's account of the craft that followed him or the lights underwater? Now, there's a lot of reports of strange sightings in the UK, especially lights in the sky, but I focus mainly on the Isle of Wight since this event took place there. What do you think those lights could have been? Do you think it's a UFO, or do you think it's maybe a military aircraft? If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.